Hello, and welcome to another amazing episode of Wellness for Powerful Women. So, as y'all know, this is my talk show where I bring on amazing women to help you in your business, with your wellness, with your finances, with your entrepreneurship journey. And this is a topic I really wanted to talk about for a while because it's something I experienced in my own entrepreneurial journey. So, I'm so happy to have an expert in this field and also just an amazing soul. I love her energy. I just love everything about her. So, and I met her here on LinkedIn because I was just drawn to her energy. She just seemed like a really cool person. So, without further ado, I'd love to have you introduce yourself, Madhurima, and let us know what you do and who you help.
For sure, for sure. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Charmaine. I actually got to know you because of one of these lives that you did with, I think, Alex. And I was like, yo, I love Charmaine's energy. This sounds such an amazing thing that she's doing. So I'm super excited to be here. Hello, everyone. I'm Madhurima Sappatti. I am a freedom soul coach and I help multi passionate, ambitious dreamers basically manage the stress and prevent burnout so that they can go out there and manifest their dreams without their own selves holding them back. I'm currently on a mission to make stress management fun because personally, I feel like a lot of times people think of stress management and it feels like this another thing to add on to the routine, another thing that is going to take away from their life. I'm like, no, you can have fun and still manage your stress. So that is a mission that I am on, to tell people about different techniques that we can try out together. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Oh my gosh, I love that, and I love your mission. And before we dive into like burnout and how to actually have fun in our business, I'm curious about you and your journey. Like, if you could tell us really briefly, like what got you into wanting to learn how to manage stress and get into this sort of area of coaching.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like that's a pretty long story. So, short version of it is I have been stressed out pretty much since I was a kid because I was an extremely ambitious child. I still am ambitious, but back then I didn't know how to harness that energy right. So, I used to constantly fall sick. I used to constantly be stressed out. If you ask any of my college friends, who is Madhurima, they'd be like, Madhurima is a stressed out person.
Oh,
Right? Like
wow.
Madhurima and stress was synonymous with each other because I was so ambitious. I was so ready to take over the world. And, you can call it the Asian mentality of being at the top of the class, always trying to achieve the very best in every aspect and area of my life that I could possibly be in. And I remember that I had a few burnouts. I had one that, now that I look back, I was like, when I was preparing for my pre-meds, I had a really bad student burnout. And the second burnout, which was the one that got me into understanding what burnout actually meant, was when it happened in 2019 when I was working in a ad agency, and it was kind of toxic. And when I say kind of, it was pretty toxic as an environment. And I remember back then, unfortunately, burnout was not as hyped up of a term as it is right now, and I just didn't know what was happening to me. I had all of these built up emotions. I was constantly stressed out, constantly in a state of panic. Like, I would hear my phone ring, I would hear a message ping come on my phone, and I'd be like, oh my god, here we go again. And it was like completely crazy because I knew that I wasn't myself at all. I was in this state where nothing made sense, to be completely honest. I was like, Something's not right here." And eventually I was like, you know what, I need to quit, because I came to a realization that as a creative soul, I hadn't written anything for myself for 3 to 5 months that I was working in that company. And, it was pretty stifling because I realized that I wasn't really expressing myself anymore since I started working for this company. And I was like, yo, I can't do this anymore. I was having constant panic and anxiety attacks, and I was like, I don't want to be in this space. So I decided to quit, which was a very difficult decision in and of itself because I was the sole breadwinner of the family at that point of time. And
Oh,
it was like
wow.
a huge decision. Yeah, it was like my mom had to convince me to quit because she was like, you can quit if you want to. And so it was pretty chaotic, it was pretty scary in and of itself. Fast forward, pandemic came in, I had health anxiety. So like there were layers upon layers of things that I was working through at that point of time. I had to quit my second job because of the pandemic, and I was just feeling pretty lost in my life in and of itself. So towards the end of 2020, I came across what coaching as a genre meant, as a industry meant, and I got intrigued and interested by it. And as I went forward into learning more about coaching, I remember we had this one intention setting 5 day challenge kind of a thing. And I was like, what am I doing right now? What am I supposed to be doing? What am I supposed to be working on? And it was all about reconnecting with yourself. But my mentor asked me, this is amazing, but what else? And that was when, by that point of time, I had understood what burnout meant. I had a realization of what that word meant in and of itself. And I was like, I'm going to bring together burnout and spirituality. And the rest, as they say, is history. Went from a burnout soul coach to a freedom soul coach, solely because at the end of the day, burnout is stress that hasn't been managed properly for a really long time. And I was like, I need to get into understanding stress in and of itself. And that eventually led to me focusing not on the problem but on the solution that I'm trying to provide people with. So I could always say, yeah, I'm a burnout and stress management coach, right? It would help with my SEO, definitely. But I was like, I need to focus on the solution that I'm giving to people, and that is helping them figure out their version of freedom. What does freedom as a word mean to them? And yeah, here I am creating spaces for people to explore their freedom, explore how they can have fun in their business and overcome burnout.
Oh my gosh, I love your story, and I really wanted you to share that because I think it's something that so many entrepreneurs can relate to because a lot of us are very ambitious people. And I was reading an article recently that said people who do tend to be a little bit more ambitious and high achieving, they do tend to have a lot more stress than other people. And we could just hear with your journey what it's like to have that sort of pressure, and like what it's like to, like, what happens when you have that sort of stress. um, and yeah, it's awesome though how all your experiences sort of led you to become this freedom soul coach, which I love that title that you call yourself. And I love that you're focusing on where you want to go and the solution. So I'm curious for you because I know you're kind of, I think a lot of people can get misconceptions about what burnout is, and you also went on your own journey to sort of see what burnout really meant. And you kind of hinted at it a bit, but how do you define burnout, and what are the signs of it?
For sure. So, first of all, thank you so much for asking that question. I feel like while there are multiple definitions of burnout, the base of it all is if you don't manage your stress properly for a prolonged period of time, you reach a state where you are physically and emotionally exhausted, you are kind of disconnected. So there is this thing called depersonalization that happens, so that you're looking at yourself from outside and you're like, oh, she sucks. You have no motivation, you feel like there's nothing good happening, you look at the world from a very negative lens in and of itself. So it's just a state where you experience all of these things, and it occurs because you haven't managed your stress properly for a really long time. But personally, I feel like burnout is nothing but our body's defense mechanism. It's our last defense mechanism because we haven't been managing properly our stress, and our body's like, yo, this is not done. Like, she is extremely aggravated internally. So stress is basically like, physiological reactions to what's happening around us. So if we come across something that triggers us, our body gets ready to fight, flight, like run away or freeze. Right? There's also faint and fawn, two other things that happen in there. But basically, our body gets ready to ensure that we survive whatever is happening. And we are meant to be in that space. Like, our body is used to managing stress in short bursts of time, but not for a prolonged period of time. So personally, I think that burnout is nothing but our body's last defense mechanism to be like, if she is not going to shut down, we are going to shut her down, so
Mm-hmm.
that she has the time to come back to the natural state internally. Unfortunately, when we burn out, we feel like we are not doing enough, we are not trying hard enough, we need to do more, we need to push ourselves further. What we end up doing is we prolong the state of burnout even more when we are in that space like that. So, yeah, long story short.
Right.
I go off on tangents, Charmin.
Oh, so do I, girl. So I totally understand. But I mean, but I love that you went into that a little more because it really is sort of that fight or flight response that our body has. But burnout is what you're saying, what I'm hearing you say is it's kind of like when it gets to the point where that fight or flight response is a little bit too prolonged and the stress isn't managed in a healthy way. And then it gets to that point where it's like your body's like last resort until it sort of gives up almost, like,
Yeah.
which is crazy. And I'm curious, what are the things that cause burnout? Like how do we get to that point, and what can we start doing to avoid that?
Yeah, I feel like, so here's something that I realized well into my journey is that, let's talk about stress, because that is the component, right? Like if you don't manage stress properly, you end up being burnt out. And it's not like an instant thing. It's not like, oh, I'm stressed out now, I'll be burnt out tomorrow. It is something that has been happening for a long duration of time. But stress in and of itself is very personal to everyone, right? Stress can be both good and bad. And what could potentially stress me out bad could be your zone of genius. It could be a space where you are motivated. It could be good stress for you, right? So, for example, if someone comes to me and they are like, yo, Madhurima, we want help with nutrition. And I'm like, I can tell you the basics, but I don't know enough. So I'll have to like research 100 papers to kind of give you a proper answer. And I would be stressed out bad. But it is your zone of genius. You could kind of ask proper questions to understand what they need, and you could help guide them better.
Right.
So at the end of the day, it is very personal to each and every individual. And I like to call things the thing that leads you to burnout as the cocktail of triggers, specifically because it's not that we are robots, right? Like it's not like, oh yeah, this is my work mode. After I switch off my laptop at 5 o'clock, I'm going to go home and everything's going to be fine. A lot of times, irrespective of how tight our boundaries are, things bleed in, emotions bleed in. And
Right.
that could potentially lead us to feeling stressed out. So I feel like everything can come together. There are multiple different things that could lead you to stress potentially, the bad stress, and all of those things mixed together creates this cocktail of triggers, this cocktail that's made specifically for you that could potentially lead you to burnout if you keep drinking it over and over and over again. And yeah, some of the signs which was a part of your previous question could be, if there are multiple signs, right? Like mentally you're feeling depressed, you're feeling anxious, you feel this sense of restlessness. Emotionally you're feeling angry, irritated, on edge. A sense of unease kind of slips into your daily life. And physically you can have like this sense of jitteriness, right? You can have this sense of, oh, I'm not able to breathe well enough, right? Because every time you're stressed, your breath goes because it
Right.
has to prepare you to once again survive in a particular situation.
Right.
So there are multiple signs of stress, and at the end of the day, I feel like it's pretty individualistic. So I like to play this game called the burnout awareness game, where if you feel like there is a trigger that always leads you to stress, you make a note of that. You make a trigger list, and then you add tallies to it. You figure out what are the things that usually stress out the most that could potentially lead you into a space of burnout if it keeps happening for a longer duration of time. So that is a great way to understand what are some of the things that could potentially cause you to be in a space of stress for a long duration of time without either you realizing, or you are in a space where it's extremely difficult for you to get out of the stress response. Yeah.
Oh, nice. I love that. I love the how you said things like trigger cocktail, and it's funny. It really is kind of like your own personalized cocktail. Like it's kind of like it's all dependent on your personal experience and the way you're, I guess perceiving like certain situations individually that are unique to you. And I'm curious though, because that's a good starting point. I love that you said like gain awareness of the triggers, which is so important because you have to know what is creating that stress for you. So I love that you have that awareness there. And so I guess the $1,000,000 question is, if you're aware of the things that are creating stress, how can we start turning that into fun, because I feel, because I've been in that stress state, especially with business, where things can seem really stressful. Especially for me, it was a lot around money and finding clients and things like that. Like, how do you turn those things that don't seem very fun in the moment and turn them into fun? Because I'm like, I feel like that could feel challenging when you're in that in that state.
Yeah, no, definitely. That is such a good question, Charmin. And personally, here's the thing: a lot of times the fight or flight response is pretty much instinctual. Like even before your body recognizes it, that you are running away from something or you're fighting something, the reaction is already happening because it helps you survive. However, there is an opportunity for us that, for example, exams stress you out a lot, or a business meeting with a potential client stresses you out. You know that these things will eventually lead you to stress. So what you can do is you can prepare beforehand, you can prepare during the thing, and you can prepare after the thing is done, right? And even in the sense of, if you are already in a stress response, if you're aware that, if you notice your breath going, if you feel this tightness in your chest, which is something that happens to me a lot, if you feel like you're sweating a lot, you have all these things, you have an awareness of how you usually respond to stress, then you can be like, hold on a second, I'm stressed out about something and I'm not sure what. Let me look at what my surroundings look like, let me look at what could potentially be stressing me out. And when you do realize it, that's when it's about harnessing that energy and converting it into something fun, right? So I was telling this to you before our call, like, wonderful speaking opportunities like these always intrigue me, always make me super excited about the process, but it also makes me be in the state of jitteriness, because I'm always excited to share all the amazing things that I have. And so I have to calm myself down and be like, yo, calm the hell down. We need to be able to kind of put our thoughts across in a way that people understand, not you understand. So I was telling you about how I tried yawning a couple of times, and that helps me kind of calm down. Breath work is something that's really huge, but how do we make it fun? Right? And so it comes down into the definition of what is fun for you. For me, fun looks like dancing in the middle of the night and singing extremely loud enough to wake up my neighbors, which has happened, I'm not gonna lie.
Oh wow. That sounds super fun.
Yeah, and it could be as simple as taking a paper and dipping a paintbrush in multiple paints and just splattering it. Makes me feel like a kid. It could be boxing. It could be like punching air. It could be taking deep breaths and letting go. It could be going on walks. It could be whatever fun looks like for you. At the end of the day, it comes down to how do you enjoy having fun. Because here's the thing, when we are in the stress response, oftentimes we ignore it, and what that leads to is our body literally being a walking talking piece of chemicals that is ensuring that we are high strung, right? We are in that high zone where we are ready to respond extremely quickly to whatever's happening around us. Even before we think logically about it, we are responding from the limbic system, which is all about survival, which is all about ensuring that we survive now so that we can thrive tomorrow, kind of a thing.
Right.
And so when we ignore it, it keeps building up. And it's about how are you harnessing that energy, because if you keep it like that, that can eventually lead you to burnout. But if you allow yourself to come down from that high, if you come down to normal, and that could look like, I sometimes like to do breath work, right? Taking a few deep breaths in, letting it go slowly, surely. I like to place my fingers on my wrist and feel my heartbeat as I breathe, because that helps me ground myself. It could be anything, as long as you have fun with it, right? And the definition of fun, like for me, breath work doesn't traditionally mean fun, but it is exciting for me to be in that extremely high state of awareness about what's happening internally for me. Like I can feel my pulse, I can feel my heartbeat slow down and come back to normal, and that's pretty exciting, right? It could also be like walking out in the middle of the night and stargazing, because that feels like fun, but I'm still incorporating movement enough to get all of that nervous energy out. So it comes down to understanding what does fun mean to you and how do you complete that stress cycle.
I love that so much because I think that's one of the hardest things for especially high achieving, ambitious women to understand is this concept of fun, because it's like we're so focused on results and achieving, and we tie so much of our worth to achieving and things like that. So I feel like a lot of us have this idea around fun that it's like unproductive and things like that. But I love what you said about how it really, like, you really can find what's fun for you, like, in your own way. Like, I love how you said that looking at your pulse and feeling your heartbeat and noticing your breath kind of like slowing down, like how that part is exciting to you, which I also love that too. But I love that you're kind of framing it in this way where it doesn't have to be this sort of elusive thing. It's just like it could really be as simple as just like knowing what you value, like what you enjoy, the things that are exciting to you. Because I think we at least get a sense of that. Like we all at least know in some way what excites us and what doesn't. Like if we get in tune with our body and we just notice what things excites us and what doesn't, it can help us be in tune with what lights us up and what doesn't. But I love that you said, have, it sounds like first you gotta have a way to just sort of calm down that nervous system, whether it's with the breathing or just like slowing down in some way, like being present. And then from there, just seeing what you could enjoy, and knowing for you what excites you, which I think is so important. I'm curious for you personally, was that hard for you to know how to shift into finding joy and things like that? Because I feel like so many of us tie joy to results, and like that's the only way to get joy in our life. So was that kind of hard for you to figure out what is fun for you or what is joyful for you?
Yeah, you know what? First of all, I would like to say this one thing. In addition to the previous answer that I gave, is our body has all the systems in place to ensure that we come down from that space of extremely high strung energy. It
Yeah.
has all these systems, but because we go from one thing to another, we are constantly in the space of stress. There are multiple things. My alarm's going off, I have a meeting in 5 minutes, my kid's crying, my dogs are barking, there's no food in the house. Like all of these things can potentially put us in this kind of chain events of stress, right? So that is when you kind of give your body a boost and ensure that you're able to come down to normal. You mentioned the nervous system. It's all about switching from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the logical side of the brain. Personally, for me, I am a tad bit of a masochist, or I was in the past, where I was like, no, I have to struggle. No, I have to work in high pressure scenarios. No, I have to be stressed out. What am I if I'm not stressed out?
Right.
It was like an identity crisis because I was like, ooh, if I'm not stressed out, that means that I don't want this enough. It means
Right.
that I'm not ambitious enough, right? There are all these kind of things that ensure that we don't escape the prison that we have created. Like the keys are in our hands and we are like, but we don't want to go out because I don't know what happens out there. Right. So I
Right.
feel like for me, there was obviously 2 years back, if you would have reached out to me and told me, Madhurima, you don't have to be so stressed about everything. You got this. You can have fun. I'd be like, psh, shut up. You don't know anything. You don't know about my life, blah, blah, blah. We have all these things come up. And for sure, no one knows what we are going through. No one can potentially walk in our shoes, right? We can be the only ones who can walk in our shoes, which is why we are in the space to be extremely aware about everything that's happening internally. And we are aware of the keys that lie in our hand. And so every time I'm in the stress response, I have to ask myself, is me being in this state serving me? Which is a really huge question, right?
Yes.
Like, if it is serving me, be there. I would love to suffer as long as it gets me across the road. But if it is not, then things need to change, right? And this is an important question because, as I was mentioning earlier, stress can be good. If I put time crunches, if I put deadlines, it helps me feel motivated enough to get things done extremely quickly because my productivity is at an all time high. But beyond a point, if I am starting to see fatigue slip in, if I'm starting to get irritated and angry, I know that, oh, things are not happening the way that I want it to happen. And if I am in the stress response, I have to ask myself, is this serving me? If it is not, I need to hit pause and I need to take care of myself before I take care of the business that I'm creating. Right? It is all about that. If you are in an airplane, you have heard this before. Put the oxygen mask for yourself before helping anyone else. Right?
Right.
And this is something that I am often intrigued about, because we have this culture of we need to respond fast or we don't love something enough. We need to be stressed or we don't love something enough. Like, you watch shows like the Shark Tank, and kudos to that. I'm not
Right.
dissing on it or anything like that. But you
Yeah.
have this thing where people make an offer, and if you take even a second to think, they're like, oh well, yeah, you know what, you have lost on the offer. I'm like, why? That is their entire, like, they put so much of their energy, their passion, their time into creating this thing. And why is it that we are considering taking time to think equals to not being able to make good decisions, whereas it's the complete opposite? Taking time to hit pause and take care of yourself is really important, because it helps you calm down, it helps you to think. Because technically speaking, every time we are stressed out, when we go into the survival mindset, our prefrontal cortex, which takes care of all the things, all the thinking side of our life, it basically shuts off because it's not important at that point of time.
Right.
What's important is surviving. However, we are not in a scenario where a lion is chasing us, where a tribe member is fighting us, where we have to hunt for food, or we will starve for the next winter or something like that. We are not in spaces like that anymore. Right? Our stress points are completely different, and a lot of times you're not in this dangerous, I need to run or I need to fight something to survive. We're not
Right.
in that space anymore. I feel like, yeah, and I feel like taking time to pause, taking time to ground yourself, come back to yourself and think logically about a particular situation can help you far better than to be in that stressed out mind space where you're not thinking enough, where you are responding from your core base emotions of anger, of sadness, of joy, whatever it is. We respond from our core basic emotions at that point of time. Emotions that will help us survive. So I personally feel that I ask myself that question a lot: is this serving me? If it is not, then I need to take a breather. I need to hit pause. I need to take care of myself. I need to get rid of the nervousness before I start on this journey, and eventually everything goes the way that I want it to. And then that acts as proof for my brain that, yo, this is working. We need to keep doing this. So that's basically like almost reprogramming your mind to ensure that when you do take a breather, when you do calm yourself down and ground yourself, and when you're not responding from the stress response, things happen much better than we could have ever imagined for them to happen. So
Oh
yeah.
my gosh, yes. I love that you said that point so much because it's so true. It's like when we're acting from the stress response, that's when our prefrontal cortex shuts down. That's when we're making decisions that are based off of, like very emotional decisions that may not be actually serving us. So I love that question you asked yourself, like, is this serving me? Like, it's such a great question to just ask in the moment. Like, if you notice you're in the stress response, just ask yourself, is this serving me to help you, like, and have that pause? Because if you don't pause in between, your rational brain is like offline, like that prefrontal cortex ain't around, so you got to be like, oh, yo, I love how you say yo all the time. It's like, hey, yo, brain, like, is this actually serving me? So I love that you take that pause, because a lot of our power is in that pause. And so many of us in our society today, I love how you mentioned like the things with Shark Tank, like how if you don't make a quick decision, it's like something, it's as if you're not decisive, or maybe something's like wrong with you. But you're so right. Like we got to, like, I love that you're saying this, because it's like we have to start making this shift in our society, really, that pausing is serving you. Like, pausing is what's going to help you make the best decisions for yourself. It's going to help you like you said, like come out of something much more productive. And that's the shift that I really want to see in our society. And I'm really glad that people like you are sharing this message, because being in the stress response is hurting so many people, you know, and it's causing them to make decisions that aren't serving them. Like it's causing people to do things that tend to not serve them, like overwork, overeat, over shop, like all these things, you know. So I love that you said all of that, and I love that takeaway of like how important it is to pause. Um, is there any other words that you'd love to share with the audience? Anything else that can help any entrepreneur who might be feeling stuck or in burnout? Any advice you'd like to share with them?
Yeah, for sure. Charmin, first of all, you make such amazing points. I have to say, especially those overeating tendencies, the tendency to overshop, those are very impulsive decisions because we take them thinking that that's going to help us, that's going to save us, when in reality, that's literally doing nothing
Right.
to our
We
cause.
think
We're
it's doing something,
simply just doing it thinking that this is going to
it
help us,
feels
but
good
it
in the
doesn't.
moment, but
It doesn't do anything. Yeah. So I love that you mentioned that. I personally think, here's the thing, you don't have to be perpetually stressed out to be ambitious. You can harness that energy to do something that you find joy in, that is your passion. Something that's really important to understand is, more often than not, it is passionate people who burn out because they are so in tuned or entwined with the result that they're creating, with the work that they're doing, that it's very easy to cross boundaries. That's It's very easy to give your entirety to a thing, very easy to let the entrepreneurial side of you to take charge and prevent anything else from happening.
mm-hmm.
You kind of push joy aside, you push fun aside, you push spending time with your family. One of the things which I find very funny is, we get into the entrepreneurial journey. I don't know how many of you all do it, but for a lot of us, we do it for the freedom that we crave, that we don't get from a 9 to 5. And we basically sacrifice that freedom when we jump into working in our own business because we think that it's important. We think that that hustle is important. We need to burn the midnight oil, right? If you're a night owl like me and you love burning the midnight oil, but you're taking care of yourself in the morning, great. But if you're constantly in a space of not even taking care of your basic needs of eating right, hydrating, and sleeping, it's not doing anything for you. It's just pushing you further into that state of burnout. And when you are in that space, one thing that's really important to remember is that your burnout doesn't benefit anyone, right? It doesn't benefit your business, it doesn't benefit the people around you, it doesn't benefit you yourself. You are genuinely destroying your internal organs for a dream that, if you are in a space of burnout, you will eventually lose your passion for it. What
Right.
will it be all for then, right? Like, what is the benefit of it all? So if you, and I'm not threatening you, right, but if you want to be in a space where you want to enjoy doing the things that you need to do, that you want to do, the change you want to create in the world, the message that is in your body, in your soul, that thing that is resonating so much inside your body that it needs outlets to ensure that that message, that vibration, that energy reaches millions of people around the world and benefits them. If you are in the work of doing something like that, you need to take care of yourself first. So here are a few quick suggestions that you can try out in your business to avoid burnout from happening. Is spend 5 minutes. That's it. I'm not even asking you to spend like an hour taking care of yourself. Spend 5 minutes where you can simply walk, you can simply dance around, you can do something that adds fun in your life, and take regular breaks throughout the day. You're not God who had to create the world in 6 days, and only then, when you have earned your rest, when you have earned the right to be able to take care of yourself, you're taking a day off on Sunday. You are not God. Get realistic in this journey, that irrespective of what you're creating, you're not creating the entire universe. right?
Right.
Take care of yourself. I always get frustrated when people are like, no, I have to earn my break. And it frustrates me because that was how I was, right? Like, that was me. That was literally me. Like, I have to earn my break. I have to ensure that I do everything right. If I don't do everything right, I need to struggle even on a Sunday to ensure that I get things right. I'm like, no, let's not end up there, because the burnout is a very bad experience to have. So without going into all of that, take regular breaks if you can. Do your work in sprints. Have an understanding of how often you can be in that extremely productive space, and how often you can be in a space where you're doing things comfortably without stressing yourself out. And take regular breaks throughout the day, and do something. Include movement, include some kind of a thing that allows your brain to relax, reboot, rest. And then when you do start your work again, you are in a space where you're doing it from a lot of calm and quiet, as opposed to, oh my god, there are so many things I have to do. Like, no, no, no. You have an awareness of what you have to do, and you're able to do it much better than when you're doing it from a panicked state of mind. So yeah.
Right, and I love all those points because it's like we can't even produce high quality work. Like if you're sleep deprived, if you're not eating, if you're not feeling good physically, you can't produce like the work you create isn't even high quality. Like if you're coaching clients, you're mentally you're probably not even able to focus that well, especially if you're tired. It just doesn't work out. And I love how you said the thing about how burnout doesn't serve you or your clients or anyone. It doesn't serve your family. In fact, it makes you want to withdraw more. And I see this so much in the entrepreneurial space, especially for our online coaches. I see more and more coaches like having to just completely leave and ghost their business for months because they get burnt out because they're not paying attention to their body's signals. They're not in tune with their body and they ignore that, and then they get so burnt out like what you're saying, and then they just have to leave for go to Bali or something for like half a year. So so I love all these points. I love that, especially the taking regular breaks. I'm looking at all you entrepreneurs listening. I know you're not taking your lunch breaks because this is what I coach people on with the nutrition coaching. So I know, let's start taking our lunch breaks. Let's start just pausing and taking that time for ourselves. And we don't need to earn that time, like what Madhurima was saying. We don't need to earn that. We just have, it's just part of living that we have to eat and sleep. So oh my gosh, this has been so fun. I'm like learning so much myself, and I loved how you broke down everything from the nervous system to how to really really actionable practical tips on what to start doing now and how to have fun in your business so you don't burn out. So I'd love to have you share with us, how can people find you? How can people work with you, in case they want to stay connected?
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, reach out to Charmaine because she's doing some amazing work. She's hosting these amazing lives. So reach out to her. She is an amazing person, and I love her energy. So you guys should definitely reach out to her. Uh, yeah, follow her. Like, she is doing some dope work. Like, I learned so much from you, Charmaine. I'm not
Oh
even
my
kidding.
gosh. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. I appreciate that.
Thank you, thank you. And for as to how you can reach out to me, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, or you can reach out to me on Instagram. I am mostly available on Instagram at Madhurima underscore freedom soul coach. And something that you can do is, if you are interested in working with me, while I do have an amazing 7-week container that takes you through the freedom process that I've created to help you better able to manage your stress irrespective of whenever it happens. You have a process that you can follow along. You can also, for the remaining of the month, I genuinely just crossed 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and as a way to celebrate
Woo!
that and give back to the community, yeah, woohoo, I am genuinely giving away 1,000 free coaching calls that you can
Oh
partake on. And yeah, I wanted to be like, yo, I need to give back to the community. I need to give back to the people who made this possible for me, who supported me in my journey. So yeah, reach out to me on LinkedIn or on Instagram, or follow along with any of the links that Shamin will post later. And yeah, you can grab on a quick 40-minute, 45-minute coaching session with me. And if you feel like the work that I'm doing is dope and it serves you and supports you as an individual, and if you feel like your energy matches with mine and my energy matches with yours, if it is a two-way green flag for both of us, then we can get into the Agni coaching program, because that is a pretty intense program. I'm not gonna lie, it's a pretty intense program that takes you through the freedom process. But there are also multiple resources that you can utilize to make sure that you don't end up stressed out or burnt out in your entrepreneurial journey. I only coach 3 to 5 people every month, not more than that. So because it is such a closed container, and it takes, literally, I put all of my energy into the people that I work with in that space. I This is just so dope. But I'm giving away 1,000 free coaching calls that you can jump on, and if you feel like I'm doing dope work, you feel aligned, I feel aligned, let's get into the game.
Oh my god, I love that. I love that. Dude, all y'all gotta jump on her calls. Like, what? This is an incredible offer. Like, come on, y'all. You gotta take advantage. Get the help. I know you ambitious women
Yeah.
don't like to ask for help. I know that because I've been there. It could be challenging, but when we ask for the help, when we get the support, especially from someone who's been through the process and knows how to help you through it, you will change your life so much faster. You'll grow your business and you'll start actually having fun and enjoying your life. So take a moment to check out Madhurima's LinkedIn, her Instagram. I'm going to put her links on my YouTube replay. Follow her on YouTube. So excited for her reaching over 1,000 subscribers. And this has been so much fun, Madhurima. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your expertise with us. And I'm so glad and so amazed by your mission and what you're creating in the world.
Thank you so much for having me. I had so much fun. Oh my gosh, I have so much positive, good energy literally flowing through me. I'm like, oh my god, I have to create so much work and content right now after as soon as I finish with this call. But no, I'm kidding. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to being here and speaking with your audience. And for all you amazing people out there, please subscribe to Charmaine, like, follow, share, and all the good things that you can possibly do to help her mission and her work reach across to as many people as possible. Let's go!
Oh, let's go! Woo! Thank you. See y'all next time.